So in the last section, we looked at hyperinflation and the damage that did to the German economy and the reputation of the Weimar Republic. What we've also previously spoken about is sort of the growing popularity of the Nazi Party. Whilst they're not getting many votes, they are increasing in popularity, which brings us to 1923, Hitler's attempt to take over Germany, to take over the government by force. The 1923 Munich Putsch. It's easy to remember when it is because it's planned to take place around or on the anniversary of the armistice, the World War I surrender, the 11th of November. So, why does it happen? First off, Hitler's aims. He's determined to overthrow the Weimar Republic, the belief in Dolchstoss, the stab in the back theory, the November criminals. So he wants to organise a successful revolution in Bavaria and then, with his supporters, use this momentum to continue this revolution all the way across Germany into Berlin. So he plans to take over Munich in Bavaria and then march into the rest of Germany. The reason why now, because obviously what you've got a combination here of is sort of frustrations, but also opportunities. So the opportunity as well is the fact that you've got the influence of Mussolini. What you've seen 1 year earlier is the Italian leader Benito Mussolini march on Rome with his black shirts and take over the Italian government. So Hitler thinks, oh, well, I'll do that with my brown shirts. You've also got the fact that the leaders of the Bavarian government themselves, Gustav von Kahr and General von Lossow, had previously made a plan against the Weimar Republic themselves. So he's convinced if I get them on side, or rather if I take over them, they will support me in marching on the rest of Germany as well. In addition to that, you have obviously 1923, a disastrous year for the Weimar Republic. You have the general discontent in Germany. The time for an armed uprising seems ideal. The Weimar Republic was more unpopular than ever due to their terrible mismanagement of the French invasion of the Ruhr, which had led to hyperinflation. Many nationalists were incensed when new Chancellor Gustav Stresemann called off passive resistance in the Ruhr and resumed paying reparations to the French. If you remember, at the start of the hyperinflation, or rather during the video I did about hyperinflation earlier, I said that initially when they stood up to the French occupation, it boosted the popularity of the Weimar Republic. Now we arrive in September 1923 and Gustav Stresemann calls off passive resistance and gives in to the French basically and starts continuing to pay the reparations. The Nazi Party as well appeared ready to seize power by force. Hitler was its established leader and it has 50,000 members and supporters, its own private army, the SA. In addition, Hitler had developed an increasingly close relationship with a former army leader, General Ludendorff, who's massively popular in Germany. Hitler believed that Ludendorff, with him supporting the putsch, Ludendorff would be able to persuade the German army to desert the government and side with the Nazis. So he thinks now that we've got Ludendorff backing this, the army will side with us as well. So what happens in summary? The Munich Putsch itself is a complete failure. On the 8th of November 1923, Hitler and the SA burst into a large meeting in a beer hall, the Bierbraukeller, in Munich, where von Kahr, the head of the Bavarian government, was giving a speech. Hitler bursts in, he fires shots at the ceiling, and he says the national revolution has begun. Hitler jumped onto a table and announced the takeover of the government of Bavaria, seeking people's support. Von Kahr was locked in a room, effectively held hostage, but escapes during the night. On the 9th of November 1923, sort of realising now that the putsch is falling apart, Hitler, Ludendorff, and about 300 supporters of Hitler, the Nazis, including the SA, marched through Munich hoping to win the public support. As they neared the city centre, armed police blocked their way. What's happened here is Kahr has told the police what Hitler's doing. We don't know who fired first, but a gun battle in the street follows. Hitler falls to the ground, injured with a dislocated shoulder. In some instances, you hear stories of the person next to him being shot dead, and that's what drags Hitler to the floor and dislocates his shoulder. The gun battle lasts around 1 minute, and by the end of it, 16 Nazis have been killed. Hitler, who had moved to the back of the marchers, apparently lost his nerve and then escapes in a motor car. On the 11th of November 1923, 5 years to the day since the surrender of Germany and the end of World War I, Adolf Hitler was arrested. So at this point, the Munich Putsch has been a complete failure. Hitler and the Nazis have committed treason. He's now got to go on trial facing the death penalty. He's had a gun battle in the street with the police and 16 people have died, or 16 Nazis have died as a result of it. He's facing the death penalty. This should be the end of him, but it's not, because the success of the Munich Putsch comes from the trial which follows. It takes place in February of 1924. Hitler is put on trial for high treason, and it just turns his trial into a massive propaganda success. Thinking about the context of the time, he's the guy who's just tried to overthrow the German government. There's massive media interest in the case. There's loads of journalists and photographers at his trial, so it gives him loads of publicity. The judges are sympathetic to Hitler, so they just allow him to speak and speak and speak. It basically just gives Hitler a national platform. Rather than just being popular in Munich or famous in Munich, this puts him on the map across Germany, and it gives him a national platform. So anyway, massive nationwide publicity built Hitler's profile. Newspapers throughout Germany and even abroad reported his speeches, and he makes a name for himself. He becomes known as sort of the figurehead, the face of the national leader of opposition. This is the guy who hates the Weimar Republic more than anyone. This is the guy who's determined to bring glory back to Germany. The court was sympathetic to Hitler, and instead of death, he is sentenced to 5 years imprisonment, the minimum sentence available at the time. He would go on to serve only 9 months. Other Nazi leaders, such as Ernst Röhm, the leader of the SA, were also given short prison sentences, but the Nazi Party was banned as a result of the putsch, so you're no longer allowed to exist. We'll come on to how that gets reinstated later on. Well, in fact, I'll tell you now. When he gets out of prison, the Nazi Party is allowed to be reinstated, but on the promise that they won't try and take over by force again, which is fine for Hitler, because by then he's decided to win power by votes anyway. So, February to July of 1924, Hitler is in prison. He only serves 9 months of his 5-year sentence, and is held in Landsberg prison in special conditions. It's basically a hotel for him. He has his own private room, he can have as many visitors as he wants, and he spends most of his time writing his autobiography, Mein Kampf, in which he's going to detail his version of his life so far. He makes out he was poorer than he was, and he struggled against all the odds. It's basically a massive piece of propaganda exaggerating all of Hitler's achievements and his struggle with adversity. So, it also, as well as that, it also sets out his aims for the future of Germany and the Nazi Party. He says we're going to cancel the Treaty of Versailles, take all the land that has been taken from us back. That, remembering, that belief in wanting to take land back which has been taken for you is revanchism, revenge. That land which has been taken from us, we want back. He says they will remove all Jews from Germany, destroy communism, create a greater Germany, including people of German blood in Czechoslovakia and Austria. This is called Lebensraum, or living space, for people of German blood to live in. To the east, to house surplus population. He also believes Germany needs to create a strong central government led by a single leader, a Führer. Führer meaning leader. Now, remembering as well, prior to the Weimar Republic, that's the kind of leadership that Germany has always had under the Kaiser, just one person in complete control. The biggest positive is that what happens here is Hitler has sort of an epiphany, where he realizes we need to rethink our tactics. We are not going to take power by force and aggression. We need to reorganize the Nazi Party so that we can get more votes and take power democratically and legally. So this is a massive epiphany and a huge change in tactics, where he's going to clean up the brand of the party. Because if you remember, before this, the membership of the Nazi Party was increasing, but they weren't getting many votes. So this is where he has a realization, an epiphany, a moment of realization. We're going to change how we take over Germany. We're not going to do it by force. We're going to clean up the image of the party and make it so that we can get voted in and sort of destroy the system from within.